All right, so welcome back to another edition of our weekly market review. If this is your first time here, I want to say a big welcome to you guys. And for those of you who are already familiar with the routine, I want to say a big welcome just all the same. All right, last week, the review session that we had, all the commodities we looked at altogether delivered about a total of 83,000 pips thereabout. All right, and you can see the summary already in the group. All right, in the Telegram group. The breakdown is also available in the video from from last week. Okay, so these are all results that you can by yourself and for yourself verify. All right. So having said that, it's going to be another amazing, fantastic trading week. And we're going to be looking at, a couple of trade ideas that we can anticipate for the coming week, right? So as usual, welcome once again, like I said. And as usual, we're going to be starting with the indices, all right? Usually we start with the Australian index, which is the AXY. Okay, so we'll start with the Australian index, which is the AXY. Okay, based on what you could see from this end, all right, I told us last week that my expectation is to see the Australian dollar start to gain some strength, all right, at least some real strength from this junction right over here, all right, this line that I marked, all right. So when price gets to that point, I want to be able to observe, all right, and just check what price reaction at that junction looks like, all right, and then we can use that as a formulation, or as bias rather, to formulate our our position for Australian dollar or currencies that are denominated in the Australian dollar, currency pairs that have the Australian dollar in them. The next one we're going to look at BXY, which is the British Pound Index. Okay, and looking at BXY, I think I told us last week, all right, that this was my expectation on or from BXY. Okay, and as you can see, BXY somehow seemed to get to the bottom of the channel. All right, it seems to tap the bottom of the channel and then bounce back up. All right, but the chances, chances are that we have started seeing a decline once again in the pound. Reason being that we can see that there was a clear, a very obvious break of structure around here. All right, and from here, I think it's safe to expect the pound to still go a bit lower. All right, so for me, BXY is bearish. All right, it has the propensity to continue this bearish trend. For those who have gone through my mentorship in recent times, you know that based on our approach to the market, this is already looking like a very, very sweet setup. All right, Mr. Ayobami, can you see what I'm saying? Just let me know in the group. Just let me know in the chat box.
I just joined now.
All right, yeah. Looking at what you're seeing on BXY, what do you think? Is it going up or down? All right. He's a very shy person. Mr. Ayobami, what do you think about this setup that you're looking at right now? Can you see the reason why
it's going downward? It's bearish. That's the M is already show bearish.
Beautiful. And then we have some other confluences that you can also start to look at. All right.
Yes.
And
the stochastic overbought. Then
I don't want to do too much of a breakdown, but you can see that this is already a clear downtrend. All right.
Yes,
so thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mr. Ayobami. So we're going to look next at CXY, all right, which is the Canadian dollar index. All right, so let's quickly get right into that. Okay, and Canadian dollar index weekly time frame, let's see what that looks like. All right, on the weekly time frame, you can see that this was an area of inefficiency. However, I said that my expectation is that we get a reaction from these lines, all right? Most likely this particular one that rests right on top of the 88.2 level, all right? So that's my particular bias. The price comes all the way down here, okay? So if we do not get a clear reaction from this imbalance zone, all right, it would mean that we can safely conclude that price is going to wait until it gets to somewhere around this blue line before reacting, which means that, all right, let me quickly check that. Okay, yeah, on the daily time frame already. So if at all price is going to go bullish, all right, I want to see something that looks very similar to this. All right, that's what I would want to see on the Canadian dollar. So I think as far as I'm concerned, CXY is a possible sell to buy. All right, it's a possible sell to buy, which means that it's going to drop a little bit to make room for buyers to come in. All right, to create a discounted offer for buyers to be able to rush it. All right, so that's CXY. Over now to DXY, which is the US dollar index. All right, the US dollar index. And I recall that last week we talked about the fact that the dollar was going to lose strength right at some point, and then it was going to come into that POI. All right, and we were going to wait for the reaction. Apparently, after that POI, it entered into the other block right below it. Right, it entered into the block right below it and found strength from that other block. All right, coupled with the fact that we had a couple other confirmations in that regard. All right, so we saw the US dollar gain some strength. However, I think that this strength that we have found in the US dollar is most likely going to be temporarily tested, right? Temporarily tested, maybe peradventure, so we can go even higher. All right, so I would expect price to get to either of these two other blocks, most likely this one. All right, most likely that other block, because we've had this simple AMD pattern play out. All right, that's the accumulation. We've seen the distribution and then the return to other block, which should carry us lower, most likely to the region of this other block over here. All right, and then from there we can start to return and play right back into the trend. All right, because if you check, you see that we already had some area of inefficiency over here, right, somewhere around here. Okay, and that means that we can begin to expect price to come lower into that inefficiency, all right, into that imbalance, all right, before it gains some strength, and then we bounce, possibly to resume the uptrend. All right, nonetheless, if we look at it on the weekly time frame, all right, looking at it from the weekly time frame, or let me even see the monthly time frame, all right, we can see that this is like a wedge, an ascending channel kind of situation, and then we can see that this is the other block. So that's the monthly time frame or the block after the zone or area of inefficiency. All right, which simply tells us that there's a strong possibility that price taps into the zone, all right, before dropping lower. All right, there's a strong possibility of that playing out right now. Okay, so what does that mean? It means for dollar. All right, for the dollar, we're expecting a possible sell, buy, sell. All right, we're considering the possibilities of that. What does that mean? Remember, this is from the higher time frames. All right, this is from the higher time frames, and right now it's important that you start getting yourself prepped up, all right, for this movement, because I can assure you it's going to be massive. Because so far, I think the dollar is among is one of the top commodities that are still showing, they are still promising, all right? They are still showing or indicating the possibility of giving a really good movement so far, all right? Because all other commodities seem to be very bearish, all right? For dollar, I think we can expect a buy, sell, buy, all right? Then after that, buy into the brown line or the yellow, I think it's a yellow line. But then from there, you can drop over down here. Okay, so I want you guys to pay close attention to this. Let's see how it unfolds throughout the course of the week, all right? And then we can be able to position ourselves correctly for all of this, all of these occurrences to happen. All right, the next one is the EXY, which is the Euro Index. Right, the Euro Index, and as you can see, my analysis from last week is still playing out quite nicely. I talked about the fact that the Euro Index was going to sell, all right, and drop all the way down to this particular point, all right, and then we saw it come into this other block and start to play out that drop. Okay, so currently we're going to be seeing price drop, this far, all right, most likely drop this far, and that would create more room for, if we see the clear buy on the dollar, all right, it's going to create more room for a continued sell on EURUSD, all right, as well as other commodities like GBPJPY and the likes, all right, but we'll still look into all of those commodities for absolute confirmations, all right, just to be certain. Having said that, we're going to go to, we're going to start going into the currency pairs very soon, but let's go to JPY basket first of all. All right, JPY basket, let's go to the daily time frame. And I recall that last week we talked about the fact that JPY was going to come all the way into this zone, all right, and then start to drop. And as we can all see right now, JPY is still dropping. All right. However, regarding the future of this movement, all right, we want to know how much longer that drop is going to likely continue for. All right, and then if you see this other block here, you see that price has already reacted to that particular one. All right, there seems to be one over here as well that price currently seems to be sitting at. All right. So how do we address this, or what does this imply for the yen basket? The answer is simple. We want to see how price reacts. All right. Since that is our area of accumulation, we've seen the possibility of a liquidity grab. All right. The possibility of a liquidity grab from this highs. All right, which means that there's a possibility we get to see the GPY play out something along this line. All right, so this is basically what my expectation from JPY would be. All right, we're testing to that other block. We've taken out trend line liquidity partially. We'll take out equalized liquidity at this point as well, all right? And that would leave us with this equal lows liquidity all the way down here, all right, which would make room for price to come all the way down to this zone, okay? So that is my own personal bias regarding what JPY basket is likely going to do. All right, so JPY is going to be a buy to sell. All right, so we can also watch out for that from from tomorrow, and as soon as the market opens, all of these things could begin to play out. All right. So having said that, right now we're going to start going into the currency pairs. All right, and if you have a currency pair of choice that you would like us to take a look at, all right, and then break it down and analyze, all right, kindly drop that in the group chat, all right, or in the Telegram group, and it will be addressed. All right, so let's do that right away. Usually we start with the majors, Euro USD, GBP USD. So let's start with Euro USD. All right, we're starting with Euro USD. And I recall that last week I talked about the fact that EU was going to be bullish, all right, bullish. And as you can see, it got to the 0.5, not really a sweet spot that I would have loved to trade from. All right, nonetheless, it got to 0.5, gave us that bullish bounce that I talked about. Using my entry model on the 30 minutes time frame, I think, yeah, was it 30 minutes or 1 hour? Let me quickly check that. Yeah, using my entry model on the 1 hour, we got very solid entries somewhere around the 0.5. Using my entry model, and then from that point we took prices. Prices came all the way up to this other block right over here. All right, this other block right over here. Yeah, that other block. Price reacted from it, started coming all the way down, and as you can see, I still have bias that the possibility price comes into this other block region, all right, before we get some continued downtrend, which means that there's a possibility that we see some liquidity grab from this highs, all right, price bounces further up, okay, before dropping lower. All right, beautiful. That just does it. All right, so I think that we can start to anticipate the possible buy. All right, it's supposed to be a buy into a strong other block. All right, I'm looking at this right here. I think I want to change my bias or tweak my bias a little bit. The sense that I can now start to look more towards this as the other block. All right, this area as the other block. Haven't seen that we have all this area of inefficiency over here. All right, we can see that right. So price drops into this other block, most likely gives us this push. All right, and then any way it goes, we can start to see possibly a continued sell all the way down. All right, but that final move is not an absolute because I would want to see what exactly drives that to happen. Okay, but as you can see, for me, I think Euro USD we are still altogether bearish. All right, I think we're still quite bearish on Euro USD. All right, yes. So I think we're still very bearish on Euro USD. So guys might just want to quickly do some temporary retracement and then we continue to see the drop. Okay, so let's go into the next one. Let's take a look at GBP USD. All right, let's take a look at GBP USD. All right, so remember last week we talked about the fact that GBP USD was going to be bearish. All right, and I think that I even gave out the areas of interest. All right, you can see, I think I gave out the areas of interest where this was likely going to happen. Okay, and then you can see price entered straight into this other block on the daily time frame. All right, for the current mentorship students who attended the session yesterday, all right, you would already be familiar with this entry model. All right, I'm sure you'd already be familiar with this entry model because like I showed you guys yesterday, All right, you realize that like I showed you guys yesterday. Yeah. Yes. So like I was showing, the mentorship students yesterday, price came into this zone and gave us the classical entry pattern that we are always looking for, all right, which was really amazing. Gave us entries twice, all right, 2 consecutive points. Okay. So that was a very interesting one. And all through, I was expecting price to, come into this other block and give me some really sweet movement. It didn't do that. Instead, it came to this line inside the area of inefficiency. And that was the trade that we took for the NFP. For those of you who are in the Gbp Smart Money group, I'm sure that you're familiar with my entry for GBP USD sell. I took the entry from somewhere around here. Yeah, from somewhere around here. And currently, this is where the market is at, okay? So what are we looking out for next? Or what's the future for, what's the future for GBP USD? All right. So I think that at this point, we've created, this imbalance over here, all right? And it just simply goes to strengthen this other block. All right, it just goes to strengthen that other block, which means that this pattern could still play out. All right, that pattern could still possibly play out. All right, where, as you can see, we've dropped lower, we've broken out of the channel. All right, we've broken out of the channel, and now, remember I said initially that we're expecting the British pound to be bearish. All right, so from this point, we could see a retest of this blue line or this other block, all right, and then from there, price goes all the way down, okay? And this is a trade that should give you, nothing less than 300 pips. Yeah, if all goes correctly, the minimum target is about 300 pips. Then there's also 372 pips, and if price gets to our final target, we'll be talking about something around 600 pips. All right, something around 600 pips. Don't take my word for it. Let's just watch how the market plays out, and then you can either come back with your testimonies and tithes and offerings, or a big thank you and a very fantastic smile on your face. Whichever one you come with is all good and acceptable. All right, so that is GBP USD. All right. Like I said, if you have commodities you'd like us to take a look at, kindly drop it in the chat box, all right, and we'll get into that. AUD USD. AUD USD did 30, all right. Didn't give me the final entry that I was waiting for. All right, really didn't give me the final entry I was waiting for. But I was still able to skim something on Thursday. Yeah, on Thursday. From this point. All right, I'm not really going to break this down too much, okay, but for the sake of those who have attended my, my market, my live market analysis, my live trading sessions, all right, I'm sure that you'll be able to relate with what I'm about to show, okay. We saw that other block, and then price came all the way to test into, all right, to test into this point, all right. Test into that point, which became our own sniper entry, all right, and took prices all the way down here. All right. However, I was expecting price to maybe come back somewhere around here and then give me another entry after the NFP. But that really didn't happen. So I wasn't able to take other entries. I wasn't able to take additional entries on this. Unless it was a sweet one. A total of about, let's check that quickly. Yeah, the drop is about 188 pips. 105 pips, and then I'm sure you remember that the buy was the initial position that we talked about on Sunday, all right, at our Sunday market review, and that also did about 150 pips. Okay, so that's AUD USD. Expectation is still bearish. All right, nonetheless, we may be seeing price trying to retest into, get to this blue line and then come to this brown line or the blue line at the top here. All right, before continuing downwards. Okay, so for me, AUD USD is a critical sell to buy to sell. Yeah, so it's going to sell, then buy, then sell. But it's not compulsory that you follow the entire movement. All right, just stick with whichever ones work best for you. All right. The next commodity we're going to be looking at is USD South African Rand, USD ZAR. All right, let's quickly look at that. Look at that. Oh, look at the moon. He is shining up there. Oh, mother, it looks like the lamp in the sky. Last week, it was smaller and shaped like a bow, but now it's growing bigger and round like an O. Okay, so that's from the weekly time frame. Let's look closer. As you can see from the weekly time frame, we had we already have this area of inefficiency. Okay, we already have that. So that tells us that our other block is valid. Okay, that tells us that our other block is valid. But that's from the weekly time frame nonetheless. So for USD Rand, okay, I think I want to speak in favor of that other block. Right, I think I want to trade in favor of that other block, which means what? Thank you for asking that question. Which means that for USD ZAR, we expect a sell to buy, possibly to sell. All right, from USD South African Rand, that sell. Let me see this closer on the daily time frame. Yeah, that sell could simply bring us into this other block on the daily time frame. All right, this other block on the daily time frame. So if all goes accordingly, I think the sell should be about about 5,000 pips. All right, but let's see how this plays out. So that USD is that, all right, as requested by Mr. Destiny. I'm sure we've treated GBPUSD already. I'm seeing you talk about NZD. I don't know which NZD that is. I'm only seeing NZD. Somebody has requested GBPJPY. If your requests come in, whatever commodity you want us to take a look at, just drop it in the chat box. Somebody requested GBPJPY, which was interesting because last week I told us to expect a sell from GBPJPY. All right, and then from this particular point, you see that that was an absolute bonkers sniper entry. All right, was a really incredible sniper entry from here. All right, from this point here, price dropped and then came to this other block over here. All right, came to this other block over here, dropped again. I spotted this quite late, but nonetheless, I was able to skim off a very quick 1:6 from this. All right, I was able to take off 1:6 from this. And currently, you can see this is my expectation on GBPJPY. All right, let me zoom in closer so that becomes a bit clearer. Okay, so this is my expectation from GBPJPY. All right, we bounce higher into the zone. You can see that we've already broken structure. This is a classic AMD pattern. All right, you can see this is the accumulation. We've gotten the manipulation, the distribution. So we're expecting a return to other block and then the continued drop. Okay. However, I might want to be careful around this point. All right. So that would be my first target. All right, for GBPJPY. Bounces here, then drops all the way to maybe this as the first target, then maybe even lower. All right. As you can see, the current movement is happening from this other block. All right, which is quite interesting. So we should trade it from block to block and then from block to block. Okay, so let's see how this plays out during the week. My overall bias GJ is bearish. All right, it's going to sell temporarily. It's going to buy temporarily into the other block so that we can sell. All right. So if these setups are making sense to you, I don't know, can you just drop an emoji in the chat box? Let me be sure that I'm not talking too fast for some of you to catch up. All right, beautiful. That's fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much. Because I know that sometimes when I'm really in the mood or when I get in my spirits, I can tend to speak really fast at times. All right, but apologies about that. If you miss anything that I'm showing, okay, you can easily just go back to the YouTube channel and get the video. All right, you can just easily go to the YouTube channel, watch the video, and recap on these things. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at is Nzd USD. Nzd USD was a sweet baby princess. All right, I think that was yeah, last week we talked about the fact that it was going to come down to points, then bounce up. All right, and those of you that are familiar with my Fibonacci trading system, you know that at this point we already got to our take profit 1. All right, or take profit 3 rather. We already got to take profit 3 at this point. All right, and thereafter we can see that that drop continued. All right, how were some of us able to get into that sell is an interesting story for another day, but let me try to see if I can quickly show that here and now. All right, we can see this was the other block. All right, this was the other block right over here. Okay, and I'll take profit. If you look at it on the daily time frame, you see that on the daily time frame we had a classic situation over here that my students should be able to relate with. All right, we had the classic situation over here. This was a form of sorry, that's not the point I wanted to use. Yeah. Yes, somewhere around here. All right, and then we saw this happening. All right. Hold on, please. We saw this happening. All right. It's pretty zoomed out, so you zoomed in rather, so you may not see that clearly. But this is what it looks like on the 4 hours time frame. All right, so that for me was a solid convergence. All right, so it opened up this other block, seeing that we're already taking out equal highs liquidity from this point. All right, we're taking out equal highs liquidity from this point, and then price came right into this other block. Okay, and then that drop occurred. So what is next for Nzd USD? I know that that's the question you really want to ask me, or that's the question that you have really already asked. Okay, so I think that at this point, it will be safer to wait for a clear breakout. All right, because I personally feel that Nzd USD is still bearish. All right, personally, that's my bias. All right, Nzd USD is still bearish. So we want to see that bearish continuation play out. Okay, however, it's important to count the cost. Why did I say that? Don't jump into the trade yet. All right. Let me remove some of these lines so that you guys are confused. You can see that this is the current order block area. All right. This is the current order block zone, and it's marked out. Okay. So from this area, there's a possibility that we get retracement. All right. Like I said, it is just a possibility. All right. There's a possibility we get something along these lines. All right. There's a possibility we get something along these lines, so that we can literally just come into this level over here. All right. So we can come into that level over there. All right. And we can also already see that the trend line liquidity already taken out. Okay. Yeah, the trend line liquidity already taken out. So this is option one. All right. In the event that price shoots back up. All right. However, in the event that we get a breakout below this zone, all right, you can just simply wait for the retest of that zone and take your sell entry. All right, and take your sell entry. So Mr. Emmanuel, hope this, okay, was it Emmanuel that asked? No, Destiny, hope this made some sense. Please let me know so that we can move on. Up next, GBP CHF. All right, so this is GBP CHF right about now. All right, this is the current state of GBP CHF. Okay, and as you can see, I'm currently in a sell trade. The other block confirmed that we were ready to sell. We also had a really nice convergence over here. All right, which simply just tells me that GBP CHF is ready for some massive bearish movements. All right, some really nasty bearish movements are most likely about to take place. You can see that price has only just gotten to my first take profit, which is that line that you can see. All right, and I think I still have a couple more waiting below. All right, I still have a couple more take profits waiting. You know, I just want to see how this plays out, but I think currently GBPC we've done about about 230 pips, which is not bad for a trade that, you know, I literally just took off the top of my head. So having said that, what next for GBPCHF? Let's go to the lower time frames and quickly check that. All right, this is an area of accumulation. We can all agree that price was manipulated into, you know, to come back into this zone and into this other block, right, to give this drop, okay, which means that we can naturally expect prices to come somewhere around here, all right, which would fill up this area of imbalance. All right, and then that's personal, that's my own opinion. Okay, please mute your mics. Okay, so we have equal eyes waiting over here. All right, for a possible area of liquidity grab. So I think I would want to expect maybe something along this line. All right, maybe something along this line. Yeah, so that would be my expectation from GBPCHF. Right. However, since we already saw clearly that GBP on the BXY chart is very bearish, all right, so that tells me this reaction might happen way before getting to that point, all right, way before we get to that point. Yeah, kind of. All right, so something like this could also play out. All right, could also play out. So I've said that this is GBP CHF. All right, that's GBP CHF. What's the next one? Euro NZD. And you can see that this GBP CHF setup was something that I gave out since last week. All right, I talked about the fact that it was going to be a buy to sell. All right, it didn't react from the lower time frame order block, but it did from the daily time frame order block, and that was exactly where I caught it from. Okay, so EURUSD. So EURUSD currently is very, very interesting, at least for somebody like me. I know there are a lot of lines on the chart, probably confusing to some of you. Okay, so let me quickly clear these lines. All right, and then we can look at this critically once again. Okay, so daily time frame. Let me see from the monthly first. Okay, beautiful setup from the monthly time frame. Let's see what the weekly looks like. Yeah, pretty much confirmed on the weekly time frame. Equal liquidity taken out already. So, which means that EURUSD, we should already start considering a sell. But this is the weekly time frame. So let's see what the daily looks like. Okay, so looking at this from the daily time frame, I think all right, looking at this from the daily time frame, I think yeah, that zone is already the block rejection zone, which means that I can easily now come over here. Remember, I think we already talked about the fact that EXY, which is the index for the euro, all right, we already talked about the fact that it was it's meant to be bearish, all right. It already gave some really, really interesting bearish confirmations. So entering this for a sell, where do I pitch my tent? I think that's an interesting spot. All right, that blue line is an interesting spot. Okay, because this has created equal highs. All right, this has created equal highs taken out already. So price is most likely going to want to come into this previously untested area. All right, into that previously untested order block. Okay, so we could experience a shoot this way and then that massive drop. Yeah, and then this massive drop, and it is my expectation that this drop should bring us not lower than this point. All right, so let's quickly see how many pips that should look like, or that's supposed to look like. Yeah, so that's a minimum of 832 pips, provided you catch this right. All right, so best wishes to you guys. Best of luck, everybody. But I think that should be the best to watch out for. I believe that should be the best to watch out for. So having said that, that's Euro NZD. Up next, I think the next commodity that was requested is thanks, sir. Mr. Emmanuel, I don't think I can see that commodity on my chart right now. So maybe you want to inbox me and tell me what exactly that is. Don't worry, I was just kidding. Anyways, so the next commodity is gold. All right, so let's quickly look at it. Yeah, so XAUUSD gold. So many of you, slept off on this setup, which was actually quite painful because I gave the entire community the heads up right before it happened. All right, because even when when the release came out, all right, when the NFP release came out, all right, some people reached out to me in my DMs and were like, "Oh, so what was the expectation?" And I told them clearly, all right, I told them clearly that my expectation is a stronger dollar, all right, even right before the NFP release, okay? And as soon as the NFP was released, it became quite obvious that my bias was correct, all right? So that was why it was easy for me to pick that entry over here, all right? And that entry, let me see, on the 1 hour time frame. Yeah, I think that entry already generated about... yeah, currently about 3,000 pips. All right, and it's still going to drop because you can see that we have this huge area of inefficiency over here. All right, that price needs to come back to reclaim. All right, so that means that whichever way we should see price come to be somewhere around here, I think this would be a much better entry for me. All right, so let me do this. Yeah. All right, so that's what I'm looking at right now. So, what's the best point of entry? I think this other block market has already reacted to this other block. Let me check the 30 minutes quickly. Overall bias is bearish. All right, so I think that if at all peradventure you see price ever come this way, all right, if for any reason price does this, all right, then you can basically join that that sell ride. All right, and possibly that would be. Let me check. Yeah, that'll be about 4,100 pips. All right, 4,105 pips to get to that target down there. So you tell me if whether or not that's an interesting point to consider or an interesting point of entry. Okay. The next commodity I'm seeing here is Nasdaq, NAS 100 and US 30. So if gold is selling, all right, it means that, oh, sorry, these are, those are texts from a class I had on Saturday, a webinar I had on Saturday. For those who missed it, you can go visit the YouTube channel. You see the link there. How to cash out big from Forex. It was a mind-blowing session, really, really impressive. And trust me, if I'm saying that myself, it's not hype, all right? It's just the plain fact. So having said that, NAS 100, I told us last week that this was my expectation from NASDAQ, all right? And I think we saw that play out perfectly well, all right? It did absolutely every single movement as predicted, all right? And it's terminated at the exact block that I knew or that I was expecting it to end up at, all right? And from there, we saw that drop, Some people missed out on that drop. It would have been a really easy drop to catch. All right, if you had my entry method or my entry schematic. All right. And for those who already got the mentorship course, all right, the lifetime mentorship program, those in the VIP, I'm going to be updating the course content. I'm going to be adding a video to that, to the portal. All right. So do well to check the portal. Once it's uploaded, I'm going to notify us in the VIP group so we can just check that out. All right. And as you can see, this was a really perfect reaction. If you are taking this trade from this other block right over here, all right, according to what I even still showed the last batch of mentorship students that I have for the group mentorship for the year. All right, you see that this would have been about 1:16 there, about 1:15.5. All right, if you are taking that trade. Am I saying this to say, oh, to spite you or to, put it in your face? No, simply saying that there are things that are mostly or that are best achieved through proper mentorship. All right. It's good that you do a lot of YouTube research, you watch a lot of YouTube videos. However, your journey could be a lot shorter if you would just take the chance and get a proper mentor to show you the ropes and help you find your foot in the market. All right. I know a lot of you are having cold feet. You don't want to pay for a mentorship course because probably you've paid for courses that never delivered. I'm sorry, but that doesn't happen here. All right. It really never happens. All right. So having said that, looking at this, NASDAQ, remember we're talking about possible strength in the dollar. All right. Buy to sell to buy to sell. Okay. So what does that mean for NASDAQ? Very simple something. All right, so we've had double convergence at that point, which means that this other block is most likely going to get broken. All right, this other block we're seeing down here, all right, there's every possibility that it gets broken. All right, the price breaks it lower. So looking at what other block it might price might want to test into, I'm just going to mark off this few. Yep. And remember, all of this is on the daily time frame, right? All of this is on the daily time frame, which means that it could take some time to actually play out completely, all right? But it's definitely going to play out, all right? So let's see how the market reacts. Okay, I expect to see some temporary stubbornness from an area like this or this. All right. Okay, is that it? Okay. So price could get to react from somewhere around here. Okay. All right, price could most likely get to do a movement like this. All right, so this is NAS 100. All right, NASDAQ on the 30 minutes time frame. Okay, so it's going to be an interesting week. A lot of amazing things are bound to happen. All right, so don't sleep on it. Don't miss it. Keep your keep your reminders or your alarm clocks, just keep them buzzing, all right, because it's going to be some really fantastic week, all right, some really fantastic week. Having said that, always note that most times the NFP release, all right, even though the NFP day is always amazing, gives very fast movements, all right, but the NFP week itself, all right, the NFP week itself sets a market trend, all right. Usually the NFP week defines a market trend, all right. So we can expect that the direction that began at NFP, all right, we can expect that direction to continue, all right. So having said that, let's go quickly to US 30. Which was also another sweet commodity that we analyzed last week. I told us it was going to buy. All right, it bought, came right into this other block area on the daily time frame and started to drop, to dump. All right in time, or let me say just in time for the NFP release, or what was that? Yeah, just in time for the NFP release. We also saw this interesting convergence, which led me to believe that we were going way lower. All right, we're going way lower. And if you see on the 1 hour time frame, you see that, 30 minutes rather. Entry schematic gave us an entry somewhere around here. All right, at this other block. The stop loss just above the other block. All right, so currently where price is at is about 1:13 risk to reward already. All right, 1:13 risk to reward already, which is also quite interesting. All right, but let's see how that plays out. I think I want to check the 1 hour time frame, mark out my target points, yeah, that, and then maybe this. Maybe finally that. So what am I looking at US 30? Remember, we've talked about the fact that the dollar has regained strength, all right, based off of last week's NFP release, all right, which means that there's every possibility that price just dips all the way down here, all right. There's a strong possibility that price dips all the way down to this next POI, which means that if you're able to secure a really a really solid entry, all right, you could hold this trade for several thousands of pips, all right, several. This looks like an important point, all right, because as you can see, there's an inefficiency here that needs to be filled up, all right. So there's a possibility that this happens. All right, so that would be your entry, all right, from this particular spot, okay, from that particular spot. And it would be an interesting one because when you look at what price is cooking up at the moment, all right, we are looking for what's the best point, all right, the best zone to enter to ride a trade that is most likely going to deliver something around, let's see. Yeah, it's most likely going to deliver something around 1,500 pips. All right. So your entry is very crucial. All right. You don't want to up into the market. You don't want to jump in. You want to be certain that this criteria is aligned, and then you can hit the trigger. All right. So that's US 30 as requested. So Mr. Roderick, is that clear? Do you get it? Okay, so some of our crypto folks have asked BTC USD and ETH USD. Okay, initially last week, BTC USD, I think I gave us BTC USD last week, I gave us the bias that, you know, from this point, BTC was going to buy. All right. However, I haven't seen the things that I have seen on USD so far. All right. I think that this all right, I feel like this seems to be a more reliable point of entry. All right. So price is most likely going to get somewhere around here and then most likely dump. All right. Sounds like sad news, sounds like whatever it is you want to call it. But I think that from what I am seeing on the chart, all right, the market still wants to continue bearish. All right, that has formed a whole lot of consolidations around that other block, which just naturally tells me that the next target should be somewhere around here, which is the $10,000 mark. Does that sound like good news to somebody? BTC to 10K. All right, beautiful. So I think that sounds like good news to somebody, which means that if price delivers a real solid entry schematic around this zone, all right, it will be very, very safe for me, you know, to ride that trade all the way down, close my eyes, you know, just rest in the arms of God's grace and say, yeah, beautiful, we did it. All right, we did it. So BTC USD is going to, you know, take out all of this liquidity most likely. And from what I can see on the daily time frame, it doesn't seem like there's any, let me check that quickly. Let me mark out the other blocks I'm seeing on the daily time frame. All right, so worst case scenario, BTC comes down to maybe 17,345 and maybe tries to go back up. All right, that's the worst case scenario, but at least this is the first target, 1735, 17,350. All right, the second target is around 15,500. Third target is around 13,750, and then the final target is around 10,800 or 11,000. So is that clear for the person that asked about BTC USD? Is that clear enough? For the person that asked about BTC USD, I hope I've resolved that request. Okay, so let's go to ETHUSD. So initially my bias on ETHUSD was, yeah, the ETHUSD was going to drop this low, all right, and then peak, all right, or maybe even a bit lower, all right. Yep, possibly, all right, because I've seen a couple of formations that seem to lead in that direction. So I think personally, ETHUSD for me is going to be bearish. It's going to come all the way down into this area, all right. and possibly, just possibly, he could see some strength, all right? But it's not an absolute, it's not something set in stone. So we just have to wait for the confirmations that, yeah, we're headed in the right direction. Okay? Is that clear for somebody, please? Is that really clear for somebody, please? If that's clear, can an emoji in the chat box. All right. If this is clear, drop an emoji in the chat box. Quickly, quickly, quickly. All right, beautiful. So I think that this is how far we're going to be going for tonight's market review sessions. All right, and I just want to quickly say a couple of words, say a few things right before I sign out for tonight. Okay. So currently, I've had some amazing students in the bootcamp. They're doing fantastically well, and so far the results have been impressive. All right, have been impressive. But nonetheless, I am trying to build a community where everybody contributes something. All right, every single person contributes something, and that's why over the next couple of weeks, okay, from time to time, I'm going to be organizing certain webinars or certain training sessions that will help you build psychology and maybe even show you some tips and tricks that I have learned over the past couple of years. All right. And at the same time, I just want to say this, put this out as an announcement. Currently, we have created a branch or a department in the firm, all right, a department in the company that handles the settlement of what's it called now? Prop firm accounts, all right. So for venture, you have a prop firm account that you're struggling with, you need assistance with it, all right. There's a department that has been specifically equipped to assist you in that direction, all right. So they're going to be teaching you, if you want to learn how to pass the prop firm account yourself, all right. We already put together some kind of materials that can guide you through that process. All right. However, peradventure, you feel like, okay, you can't do this yourself. You need somebody to do it for you. All right. You can reach out to any of the admins. They're going to talk to you about the pricing structure and how it works. Right. And then we can be able to accelerate your journey to financial freedom and prosperity. All right. So once again, I want to say a big thank you to everybody who has made that time to join me tonight. My name remains Aditya Freeman. I am the lead instructor and CEO of EasyFX Academy. It's been a pleasure having you guys tonight. Thank you very much for attending. Please don't forget to leave a like, comment, tell me how this session was, tell me how helpful the setups were, all right, or how helpful it has been over the last couple of weeks and months that we have been doing this back to back. All right, so please do not be stingy with your comments. Drop a like and let me know that you guys are getting some solid value from these things that we put out every single week. Right, from this thing that we put out every single week. Having said that, thank you so much, guys. God bless you. Have a fantastic trading week and have a sweet, sweet night rest. Good night and goodbye.